So this video is following up from my blog post about at what age can a child decide where they live. And this is one of those topics that is raised all the time because for some reason there are people out there, not lawyers and not professionals in family law, but there are just people out there that perpetuate this myth that there is some kind of legal age at which a child gets to choose where they live and who they spend time with. So from the very start, there is no statutory age at which a child is permitted to choose where they live under 18 years of age. So your child, once they turn 18, they can do what they want because they're an adult. But prior to that, there is no age provided for in legislation in the Family Law Act that says a child can now choose where they live. So when we're working through family law matters, we go, okay, the first thing we look at is the legislation. The next thing we're going to look at is whether there is any case law. So the case law around ages at which children can choose where they live is quite clear. And it is clear that there is no particular age at which a child gets to choose where they live. So what does the case law say? Essentially, it comes back to the exact same thing that every single parenting matter comes back to. What is in the best interest of the child? So when we're looking at the views and wishes of a child, it will boil down to how much weight or importance the court places on those views and wishes. And the weight or importance is going to be based on essentially that child's understanding of what is in their best interest. So it's going to need that child to have that cognitive understanding, so be, I suppose, traditionally smart enough to understand, and a lot of that is going to come with age, and emotionally able to understand what is happening and what their choices really mean. And it has to go even further with assessment of, okay, so how did they form that choice, and is that an independent view of the child, or are they trying to please a parent? And that's when we come back to parental alienation. So it's not a black and white answer, and I think anyone who has a child or knows a child or was a child, so all of us, know that every single kid is different, and you could meet a 10-year-old that is extremely insightful as to who they are, where they are in life and what they need, and you can meet a 15-year-old who doesn't know how to boil an egg or clean their room, doesn't go to school and doesn't know what any of that means. Basically what I'm saying is it's something that requires very individual assessment. Who does that assessment? In the family law, like in the family court space, they would refer you off to a consultant to complete a family report, and that's where they're going to interview the parents, they're going to interview the child if they're considered old enough and mature enough to understand. They're going to observe how the children interact with the parents. Outside of the court space, it's then up to, I suppose, parents to invest in having an independent third party come in and give voice to their children. And again, it will be some kind of child professional, child consultant, psychologist, someone along those lines who understands children's needs and development and can give good, proper feedback as to how well informed and how well formed their views and wishes really are. So the answer to the question is there's no answer to the question. At what age can a child choose where they live? It's going to depend on the child, on the circumstances. There are so many variables in place. I think ultimately, if you work, in an ideal situation, you're going to have a good co-parenting relationship, and the two of you are going to work together to explore where your child's at, what they actually need, and determine how impactful your response to their views and wishes is really going to be. Because at the end of the day, if a child really doesn't want to go and see a parent, does that parent want to force them to come and see them? If it's going to cause them distress and upset. And what's the reason? Like, is it just because they want to stay and play video games with their mate? Or is it because they are fearful and they had a bad time with the other parent last time, and maybe there's something that needs to be dealt with to improve the relationship? So it's looking at each individual situation and not taking it as a broad overarching, a child is 10, 12, 14, they're allowed to make this decision. It's not as simple as that. And if you're in a position where you can't work well with the other parent and there isn't an ability to explore things with the child, then you are left in a position where you either need to look into your legal options of, I suppose, pushing the other parent into engaging with you, or alternately, I would also suggest, if you do still have shared parental responsibility, if there aren't any court orders in place, those sorts of situations where you do still have some capacity to intervene, it may be worthwhile speaking with the child's school and just making sure that the child is okay, and that if they do need any support, those supports are made available through the school, and that's just acting in the best interest of your child. And perhaps you can say to them, look, if my child wants to speak to me, then I would love for them to reach out and make yourself available. If the guidance counsellor or some person at the school wants to connect your child back to you if you aren't seeing them. So I hope that helps. The long story short is, if someone tells you there is an age, then they're perpetuating the myth and you need to seek proper advice.